Hello and welcome back to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel, your for all things Everton. My name's Thomas, back on the channel today to bring you a brand new series. We're starting over the transfer window. This is going to be called Toffee Blues Transfer Talk, where we're going to break down, kind of digest some of the main rumours that obviously come up in our 24/7 videos that we release every day. We're going to kind of go into a bit more detail about kind of the more persistent rumours. I'm going to be joined by various guests today. I am joined by Paul McAllister of the Toffee Blues. We've got plenty of players to go through, so we're going to kind of just get started straight away. We've been linked with every player under the sun. We haven't signed anyone, so hopefully that's gonna start materialising soon. The player that we've probably been most linked with back, since January, and we kind of can't escape the rumours at the moment. I'm not sure anyone really knows what's going on. Is of course Lille's Gabriel, obviously Brazilian centre-back, left-footed, is kind of, I think that's where most of the interest comes. Paul, just to start off, what are your kind of like impressions of the deal now? Are you kind of sick of it? Do you want it to move on, or do you think we should keep pursuing it because he will fit well into the squad?
Me personally, I'm sick to death of hearing it because every day it just seems like something brand new comes out of the woodwork. 1 minute he's signing for Arsenal, the next minute he's going to Man United, next minute we're the favourites again, and it's all locked up. The next day after that, then it's all back in the air. I've written it off in my head now. Personally, I think it's dragged on too long, and if we were going to get this lad, then I think he would have been in weeks ago, or things would be progressing a lot quicker than they are. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is all tied up behind the scenes, and Everton have just done really, really well at keeping it under wraps. But I don't see it happening now. I just think the cat's out of the bag with him. We've heard Marcel Brands is apparently really, really cheesed off that Everton's transfer targets leaked out months ago, and it's made it harder to get deals over the line. I think this is probably what he's referring to. I think this was the deal that he's probably been working on for a while, thought he was very far down the road with it, and then it leaks out into the press and some other club comes sniffing around, and now the player or Lille, the club, have probably had a change of heart, decided actually we're not so keen to go to Everton anymore. We'll wait and see what other offers we can get. So if we can get him over the line, okay, great. I've heard good things about him as a player. If we don't get him, then whatever. I'm sick of hearing about him now, and he can't be the next coming of Rio Ferdinand. Surely,
Yeah,
I'm sure he's a player, but I mean, there are other good players we can probably go and get instead.
Yeah, I agree. I think what the situation basically is that a couple of people have said now the club clearly had a deal kind of wrapped up for him back in almost like January, February time. They've gone back in after everything that's happened, asked for a lower fee. I think that's basically opened the door for other clubs to come in. And I agree with you. I'd kind of be moving on now. I'm a bit sick of it. Unless it's going to happen now, there's no point in kind of sticking with it. There are other targets we could go for. Kurt Zouma, who we're not going to really talk about today because we all know Zouma well. I'm not sure how genuine those rumours are either. Let's be honest, it's quite an easy link to kind of say we're going back for the loan player we had 2 years ago. It might happen. I'm not too sure. But in terms of Gabriel, I'd personally be looking to move on if it's not done by this week. I mean, the rumours that keep coming out are he's going to make his mind up by this week. He's going to make his mind. This has been going on for weeks now. Clearly, nothing's materialised. The club should have and probably will have separate targets. Personally, I'm not really sure why they've gone in so much for a centre-back. I think there's clearly more pressing matters elsewhere when money might be a bit tighter than usual. I'm not really sure about how if a centre-back is the biggest priority. I personally think it's going to be central midfield, right back, and then right midfield. And we'll talk about targets there. In terms of Gabriel, as I mentioned, kind of want this one either wrapped up now or move on. Massive saga over the summer. If other clubs like Arsenal and Napoli want him, I think he's more likely to go there. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Paul, have you got any more to add before we kind of just move on?
It's got a bit of a whiff of Leroy Fair about it. Do you remember that one?
Wow,
that was. Yeah. It was a good few years ago where it was all done. The player had been over. He'd signed his contract. He'd done his medical. He'd met everybody, and then something went wrong at the very last minute, and then the whole deal ended up just falling down. It's just reminded me of this now. It seems like something to go wrong so late in the day. Maybe it's just destined not to be. Probably, if you'd have spoke to the club 3-4 months ago, I'm sure they'd have told you. If you were a trusted source, they would have told you, yeah, it's nailed on, he's coming. But obviously, he's not here, and if he's not here by now, I don't think he'll ever be here, quite frankly.
Yeah, I agree. And a club he could be on his way to now is Napoli. Obviously, Napoli are going to have to sell players. They've just signed Osimhen from Lille for a ridiculous fee, somewhere around like 70 million euros or something like that. I'm not certain what it is exactly. It's a lot of money for a player that's had a couple of good years in the Liga. To be fair, obviously, we're not here to talk about Napoli's transfer targets, but we are here to talk about Napoli player Allan, Brazilian midfielder, fallen slightly out of contention under Gattuso. Ancelotti's clearly a big fan. Obviously, Ancelotti formerly managing Napoli. Clearly liked the player when he was there. Might have gone back in for him. Not many kind of reliable sources are saying we're in for him, but there are a lot of people saying we are interested. A couple of random outlets, maybe coming from Italy, say we've agreed a fee. I think that's unlikely. I think there's definite interest. I'm personally not sure if he'd be the complete answer to our midfield problems at the moment. I do still think we need more of an Idrissa Gueye kind of player who's happy to put a tackle in. I'm not too clued up about Allan all the time, but I think he's much more technically gifted, less more of a tackler, a hard worker for the team. I think he's a good player, don't get me wrong. There's plenty to talk about the fee. 29 years old, almost 30. Depends what the fee would be. How much would he add to the midfield? Probably quite a lot. Good technically gifted player, as I mentioned. But no one too credible at the moment talk about this rumour. Paul, what are your thoughts on this one?
Would I like Allan? Yeah, because I'd like any midfielder at the moment because our midfield is so bad. With Allan, I know a bit more about him. He's not a number 6 so much. He's more of a ball carrier, more what Barkley kind of used to do, just with a bit more intelligence. Maybe not the pace that Barkley had, but someone who would get the ball and move it up the field, bring it forward a lot bit more. His age is the big thing against him. I'm sure if he was 25, then the detractors that he seems to have, or people who just don't think he's the right answer, I'm sure that would be a lot lower if he was a couple of years younger. We're just at this point now in football where I think most signings, if they're 28 or over, or older than that, fans tend to get really uncomfortable, especially if it's for a biggish fee. But the midfield's just an absolute state at the moment. We need somebody, anybody, even if he's only going to come in and be there for 2 years, just someone who can be a big plug because in Everton's midfield, because right now we have a gaping hole there. There's so many midfielders who I wouldn't pick over some 30-year-old, because he's going to be 30 by the time we're playing again. Fabian Delph, waste of time. Tom Davies, not good enough. Gylfi Sigurdsson, let's not even go there. And Andre Gomez, good player, but very limited. I agree with what you said earlier on. I prefer to see more of a tackler, a number 6 in the midfield to partner Gomez to do all the dirty work for him. I'd like Allan. I don't think he'd be the sole answer to what we need. I think if we get Allan, then we definitely need to bring in another midfield. If he's the only midfield we bring in this season, in this transfer window, or the only midfielder who will have any sort of role in the first team, then I'd be disappointed. So I like him, but him on his own is not enough.
Yeah, I agree. Good player. Probably not the complete answer to what we need at the moment. He'd be more of a luxury player than kind of the answer to the problems that we have, which is everyone refused to put a foot in basically in centre midfield. We saw it kind of in the restart. Very frustrating to watch. Tom Davies not good enough, I agree. Gylfi Sigurdsson refuses to adapt to a centre midfield role, and that's where he's going to have to play. So he's not good enough either. Gomez, I think, can be good. I think Gomez has definitely fallen victim to not having anyone like Gueye next to him. Obviously, Gbamin was brought in as the Gueye replacement, and then he needs an energetic ball winner next to him, and he doesn't have it in Tom Davies. But I'm still not really sure what Tom Davies does. Clearly, you can see Sigurdsson's role is that number 10, doesn't want to put a foot in at any time. That's clearly where he prefers to play, but he can't adapt to the system. I don't think he's good enough. With Davies, I really have no idea kind of what his best kind of qualities are. In terms of Allan, can I see it happening? Potentially. I wouldn't say it's guaranteed. I wouldn't say he's going to be our only centre midfield target. Clearly, we've gone after Højbjerg. Now joined Spurs, so obviously we're not going to talk about him. But I think Højbjerg's more of the kind of player we do need, happy to put a foot in, kind of that kind of aggressive player in the midfield. So we'll have to see how this one develops. Have you got anything else to add on that before we move on?
It's an even bigger gamble attached to it. The fact that he's never played outside of. I think he's played in Italy since 2012. I think so. How long's that be? About 8 seasons. He was at Udinese for a couple of years, and he went to Napoli in around 2015 when Sarri got there. So he's spent a lot of years in Italy. Is he too embedded in his ways now? Has he been there too long that for him to jump to a new league, especially a league as fast and as physical as the Premier League would be? Is that beyond him at his age? I'd hope not, but a lot of players come from Italy in their late 20s, early 30s, and they struggle really badly, no matter how good they are technically as players. So I would like Allan. If you're asking me to say, do you want us to sign Allan? The answer is yes. But if Allan is our kind of marquee signing for the midfield, then I don't think that's enough. I think I'd like Allan, but he can't be the guy who we're putting all our hopes on. We need a number 6 badly. And a number 6 who we can really hang our hat on and can be sure he's going to come in and make a difference really quickly. And he's going to be at the club for a long while, or at least on a long-term deal. So let's hope that happens. But if Allan comes in as well as a sort of a squad player, luxury player, as you said, then I think that's a good bit of business.
Yeah, I agree. And then sticking in central midfield for now, a rumour that's kind of just emerged last night. I'm not sure how credible it is, but we'll talk about it anyway. I mean, at the time of recording, it's about 6 on Wednesday, 12th of August. At the moment, nothing has actually happened. So this is obviously all purely speculation. Something might happen by the time the video goes up. I think it's unlikely. As a club, we clearly don't move very fast. But a player that has been linked, £400,000 a week man, is what the reports are. Aaron Ramsey from Juventus. Pirlo's clearly taken over as manager. People say the speculation is Pirlo doesn't want him in the midfield. I'm not sure how true that is. But we'll go into it anyway. We'll kind of assess what we think he might offer. Percy, again, similar with Allan, good player. His wages are far too high. We can never pay that. Always injured, like your Fabian Delph. Fabian Delph obviously came in for £8 million. Ramsey's going to be on who knows how much money. Might be a free transfer. We don't really know at this point. Depends how much Juventus want to kind of get rid of him. Is he the answer? Again, personally, I don't think so. We still need that, as you said, number 6, that player who's going to put in a tackle. Ramsey, good player, probably not worth the gamble, in my opinion. Paul, what would you think about this one?
If we could get him for sensible money, if he wasn't going to charge us eye-watering amounts of wages, then I would have Ramsey. I like Ramsey. I think last season he played a good amount of games. I think he played well over 30 if you take all the competitions into account. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many he started for Juventus, but I know he played a lot of games for a player who everyone just always thinks is injured. And he played a lot of games in his last 2 years at Arsenal as well. I think he played something like 40 in his last season for Arsenal and over 30 again in the season before that. Again, I don't know how many minutes that adds up to overall. Maybe a lot of it was off the bench or just in cup games. But just this rumour that he's kind of just this sick note, this idea, I don't think that's necessarily fair. Maybe at one point in his career, but I think in the last few years he has played a lot more than people think he has. I don't think he'll leave Italy. I think he'll stay there for another year at least. I mean, I don't know where all these rumours come from that he's not wanted at Juventus and that they're going to try and palm him off, because I've been hearing them for months, even before Sarri was sacked a few days ago. I was hearing, like, even in the January transfer window, they were looking to get rid of him, and I don't know why, because he was still in and around the Juventus team and making a good impression of himself, apparently, and contributing. I think a lot of it has to do with the Italian media is notoriously biased against non-Italians playing at big clubs there. They don't like these foreign players coming in and taking a spot over an Italian player. And maybe Ramsey's fallen into that a little bit. Just the Juventus local media, or Juventus are basically the Man United of Italy, aren't they? They're the biggest club. They're the club that most journalists cover over there. A lot of those pundits, journalists, whatever, I'm sure they'd like to see this Welsh guy who's brought in and he's on a lot of money. They'd love to see him just go back to the Premier League and let some Italian player come through and take his place. I think it's got a lot to do with that. I don't think Aaron Ramsey's this player who just doesn't fit in at Juventus and they're not going to use him and they're going to just give him away to anybody who'll have him. I think he'll stay there for another year. I'd really like him, but I just think I don't agree that he's on the transfer list with Juve. I'd be very shocked if he leaves there. I think that's just certain journalists in Italy trying to make a move happen when it's not going to.
Yeah, I agree. Good player, probably not even available. So we won't dwell on this one for much longer. Moving out kind of to the right-hand side now, we clearly do need a right-back. The club, rumours kind of emerged last night that John Joe Kenny's been offered to other Premier League clubs, or they've made inquiries about him. Maybe the club don't think Kenny has a future here, or maybe they kind of say a good player, cash in on him when you can, really. Had an all-right season with Schalke, and he would be a good player to earn money off. Will look good for the books as well as coming through the academy, 100% profit. Player we've been linked with, first of all, Seki Celik. I still can't fully decide how to pronounce his name. Spurs apparently also allegedly interested. 18 million euros is around the fee, I think, that's been quoted. I've spoken to Jeremy Smith, who's obviously a French football expert, probably knows a bit more about French football than myself. And I can't speak for Paul, but then probably Paul as well. He clearly watches a lot of French football. Does Jeremy Smith told us a lot about good tackler. He can get good crosses in. Not a complete kind of product by any means. Still a lot to learn. He's adapted well to Liga, in which, I mean, it isn't saying a lot, but bear in mind Turkish players sometimes struggle when they come to kind of the top 5, allegedly, European leagues. Paul, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think we need a right back, first of all? What would you do with Kenny? And then would you be looking to a player like Zeki Celik?
Yes, we do need a right back. And personally, I would give Kenny a chance. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, and a lot of people think that we should just get rid of him or loan him out again. But I think Kenny went out on loan last season, played a lot of games for Schalke, did what was asked of him, basically. And I think he's earned the right to have a proper crack at making the right back spot his own at Everton. I'd give him 3 months. Okay, we're going to be restarting soon. I'd give him a few months, and if he can impress in that time, then I would sign him to a long-term deal. If he comes in and he does okay, some good, some bad, then maybe hang on to him as a squad player and sell him in a season or two if we get a good offer. But I wouldn't be in any rush to sell him, John Joe Kenny. I'd only get rid of him if we get made a really, really good offer by another club and we think, you know what, we're never going to get that money for him again at any point in his career. Let's just cash in on him now. But if John Joe Kenny's starting the first game of the season for Everton at right back, I wouldn't be displeased personally, because Seamus Coleman, I've said it before on this channel, I don't think he's up to it anymore. I don't want to see him in the Everton first team unless it's an absolute necessity. I'd like a new right back, but I wouldn't want to spend stupid money on it. I don't know how much this Celik would go for if he's available cheap. And what you say is correct about him. He's a good player who's made the step up to a big league really well. And he's a good age. He's 23, isn't he? Then, okay, I'd like to see us spend a couple of million and let's give a player like that a chance. But if we're going to be spending a lot of money, let's say, I don't know, 50 million plus, I don't know. I don't know what you consider good money for a right back who's 23 and unproven. It's not a priority for me. I still think John Joe Kenny, we should rely on him for a couple of months. So if we get this right back, Celik or someone else who's young and it's for a good amount, then okay, let's see what he can do. If we decide, you know what, we can hold off on that for another transfer window and we'll give Kenny another chance, then I'd be more than happy with that.
Yeah, I think almost. I mean, I can't speak for the club. Obviously, I've got no idea. But I wonder if they are kind of looking to kind of cash in on him when his market value is probably going to be at its highest. I think he wouldn't be a bad squad option at all. I agree with you on that point. I wonder if the club are just looking to make money from him now to potentially fund transfers elsewhere. I'm not really too sure about right back. I'm quite torn on it. Coleman's definitely not good enough. I think Coleman works okay when he kind of steps in to play that right centre-back role when he doesn't have to go forwards, because clearly all his attacking intent is gone. I think he's improved defensively. Is he the option? Is he the answer? Sorry, probably not. Percy Celik, by the sounds of it, and do check out our scout report on him, looks like a good player. Spurs apparently also very keen. I'm not interested in getting into another battle with Spurs over a player like ended up with Højbjerg. Clearly we were interested in him. I think we've probably maybe spent too long on him, and then he's gone to Spurs, and now we're looking for alternative centre midfield options. Spurs are going for him as well. They're going to look to move on. Aurier, I think the rumours are. I don't want to spend too long on it. If he wants to go to Spurs, give up, move on to a player now we're going to move on to. Plays for Manchester United, came in under Jose Mourinho, Diogo Dalot. Plays at right back. I think he can play at left back as well, but he is a predominantly right back. Apparently Solskjaer doesn't really favour him. He's a good squad player for United, but he might want to move on, potentially try and play football. I think the Mirror might have quoted it as the fee might even be £10 million, which I personally think would be a very good value for money. Depends how he'd fit in. Thoughts on that one, Paul?
He's really young, isn't he? He's only 21 still, a lot.
Yeah.
Was he one of Mourinho's last signings in that sort of?
Yeah, I think he was one of his final signings before he left. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Mourinho didn't use him much, even those final few months of his reign before he was sacked. Whether he was signed with the future in mind, I don't know, or whether he was signed to be a starter and then they've looked at him and then made up their mind quite quick. He's 21, but he's not played a lot of Premier League games in the 2 seasons he's been in England. Really, he really has been on the periphery for United. I'm not sure about that one. He looks to me, by the sounds of it, a player who's stepped up to the Premier League too early. They signed him from Porto, I believe, and it just looks like they've thrown this young kid in for a big move, and it's not quite worked out for him. Maybe some of that's his fault, maybe some of that's United's fault, but it just, Solskjaer has come in, decided he can't be bothered with him really. He's not his player. He's got his own ideas. He is not going to waste his time basically trying to develop this kid who the previous manager gave up on pretty quick. So if we sign him, I don't think we will. I don't think there's anything in that, to be honest. I don't think the club has seen enough of him to know whether or not he's worth buying, because he's not really played for United much, unless the scouts have watched him in all of United's reserve games and are really, really impressed with something they've seen. Then I'd be shocked if we're in for him, because I just don't think I don't even know. Again, I don't know if he's a great player, whether he's a bad player, whether he's a player who just hasn't had time to flourish. Yeah, I think United will probably loan him out to somewhere in Europe, most likely. I don't think Everton will be signing him, because I just don't think I think it's too much of a gamble. You just don't know what you're working with him.
Yeah, I agree. Not too much known about him. United might want to even just keep him around in the squad. Obviously, Wan-Bissaka is their first choice right back. I'm not really sure who comes after that. Final player that we have been linked with at right back, Ainsley Maitland-Niles from Arsenal, apparently is available. I'm not sure how much for. He stepped in quite well for them at right back. Bear in mind, he isn't a natural player there. What I think is interesting is, and what I think why this move might not work is, he's come out very publicly and said he wants to play centre midfield. And if we're going to try and sign him as a right back, if a player's already come out and said he doesn't want to play there, it's not really an ideal situation to be in. A good player. I think he's not an out-and-out right back. He can kind of play as a wing back, maybe at 5 at the back. Kind of your thoughts on Maitland-Niles?
He'd probably get no midfield, the state it's in at the minute. I don't know. He's another player. He's been at Arsenal for a few years. He's one of the kids who broke through, isn't he? He's kind of been in and around the first team for about 3 seasons now, I think. He broke in under the last stage of Wenger. Then he got a few games under Emery when they had that Europa League campaign, and Arteta again used them mostly in the Cups and in Europe last season. No, I don't see it myself, because we've already signed an Arsenal kind of academy. I don't want to say superstar, because he's not, but some sort of academy darling who came through in Alex Iwobi. But we signed him knowing full well he wanted to play centrally, and we just stuck him out in the wing. So what was the point in that? So I don't see us doing that again. Why would we sign a player, letting him believe he's going to play in midfield, and then we just stick him somewhere else? So I don't see that happening myself. I think, again, that's just lazy journalism. Maybe that's his agent fishing for a new contract and linking us with people. Maybe Arsenal want rid of him and are just putting stories out there, hoping someone comes in with a bid. I don't see that happening. I would be very shocked if we're in for him at all.
Yeah, agreed. I can't see it happening. Also, if it was going to happen, he's English, he's young, he comes from Arsenal. Naturally, it's going to be a high fee. English players always have an inflated price that we can't be looking to spend on him, really. Okay, he's a good versatile player for 2 positions that we do need to address. Is he particularly brilliant in both? I'm not sure. He might be good in a couple, not great in one. That he's that kind of player. He can do a job there, but I think we almost need first teamers at the moment. We don't need players to come in and kind of hang around the squad. We've got plenty of players that do that, kind of hang around as deadwood. Can be called upon. Not good enough to start though. I agree. An all right player, but I can't actually see any credibility behind this one. That's going to be the last for the right backs, unless you got anything else to mention.
For right back, no. The only other person I saw us get linked with was that Selleck that we've already talked about. Sidibe's gone. That's well and truly not happening. I'm going to hang my hat on John Joe Kenny. I still think John Joe Kenny, we haven't seen the best of him at Everton yet. Now, whether the best of him is good enough for what Everton want and are looking for, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people have already made up their minds based on what they've seen already and say he's not up to the level that Everton want to reach, but I want to give him another chance in my heart. I think John Joe Kenny, give him just a 15-game block where he starts every game, and let's see what he can do after a year away from this kind of the fishbowl that is the Everton Goodison crowd. He's had some time away from that. He's worked under a different manager. He's heard a different voice. He's learned a new language, experienced a new culture. Let's see if he comes back having grown a lot as a person and having grown a lot as a player. Doesn't work out, then okay, we can probably sell him again in another transfer window or two and get a decentish fee for him. But I want to see John Joe Kenny given a go, because I really think there's something there that I don't want to. What I'm getting to is I don't want to see Everton sell John Joe Kenny and then regret it in a couple of seasons like we have with other young players.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of it for right back. Obviously, for all of these players, let us know down in the comments your opinions on them, even potentially suggest some targets that we might have missed. We're kind of only talking about the most prominent ones, though, at the moment, because we're going to be doing these videos fairly regularly. And if we're going to address kind of every rumour in this video, this could go on for hours. We're linked with every player under the sun, as always. Final position we're going to look at, and I'm going to leave this one a bit open, but the player we are going to start with is Leon Bailey. Played predominantly on the left this season for Bayer Leverkusen. I spoke to Tom Fenton, German football expert. We did another scout report on him. Really good insight into the player, so definitely check that out as well. Leon Bailey, left-footed. He has played on the right before. It's kind of only been this season, from what I've heard, that he's kind of gone out to the left. We clearly are looking for a right midfielder. And also, he has been asked to almost adapt to kind of a wing-back role in the past couple of months at Leverkusen. Which kind of almost applies to Ancelotti's system in ways when we've seen Iwobi having to come all the way back, then not really get forwards, because obviously he wants to play further forwards more naturally as a central player, attacking player. Bailey, apparently, he has the stamina, he has the legs to get up and down. He's adapted well to kind of that wing-back role. Does he prefer it? No. But I think he could be a good fit. Clearly a player that he burst onto the European scene. Maybe it feels like he's been around for ages now. He's still very young, I think. His form has trailed off slightly. Is that because he's been asked to play in a new system? I think so, yes. Still a very good player. Still maybe unproven in some aspects, but still very good talent. Depends the fee. The fee has been quoted around 40 million euros, which is a lot of money for a player that has trailed off recently. If we could get lower than that, I'd personally be all over this deal. I think we do need players. I prefer wingers kind of playing off. You know, if a right midfielder, I prefer him being left-footed so he can't cut in because we don't have enough goals kind of contributed to by by our players. So if he kind of cut in, and he does have a good long shot on him from what I've heard. Paul, your thoughts on Leon Bailey?
I like him as a player, but if we are in for him, I'd be interested to see what type of role we had in mind, because, as you pointed out then, he's been playing more of a wing-back position for Bayern Leverkusen. Now, if Carlo signs him, what would he do? Would he kind of play him out wide in a 4-3-3 and play him off the striker? Or would he ask him to kind of hook the line a bit more and do a lot more of the defensive work like we had Iwobi doing in the derby? I'm not sure, to be honest. Leon Bailey, as you said, it feels like he's been around forever. I remember seeing him on like FIFA 16 like 4 years ago. He was on that, and he's still in his early 20s. He's good with both his feet, as you said. I saw him score two cracking goals against Bayern Munich last season. One with his left, one with his right. I would like him, but I would like him only if we have some like we were going to play him in a more attacking minded sense type thing. If we were just bringing him in to try and convert him into kind of this workhorse wide player, then I'm not sure, to be honest, because I think we can probably find players who could do that job in maybe, I don't know, the Championship or somewhere else in Europe. Because Leon Bailey, if we get him, he is going to cost a few bob. You know, he is a player like that with a reputation. His agent's going to want a lot of money for him. Bayern Leverkusen is going to want a lot of money for him. And maybe it's just maybe it's just the old-fashioned part of me that thinks that I don't really want to spend big money on just a workhorse player. If I'm going to spend big money on a player, I want him to be someone who scores goals and really wins us games, not someone who just does a lot of the donkey work out wide. If we get to Leon Bailey, I'd be happy with that, but I'd really hope that we play him in a 4-3-3 or maybe in a number 10 off the striker, or tuck it inside like as an inside forward like Bernard sometimes has done. If we're just going to play him out wide and hope and just have him run the line and maybe whip the odd cross in, then I think we could probably find a player just who can do that job for a lot cheaper, for less, and to want less wages, because he's probably going to want a big contract as well, and we've got to keep FFP in mind with all these signings.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe what has interested the club more, it has been his adaptation into that wing-back role. Obviously, Ancelotti, we tend to start with a 4-4-2. Then, as I've mentioned, Coleman tucks in. Iwobi's kind of has to do a lot more of the defensive work on the right-hand side. Clearly, the club think, well, I mean, we're actually not certain if he is interested, but maybe the club's interest has come from the fact that he has adapted to a wing-back role. He's good with both feet. He's versatile. He can play on both wings if needs be. It's clearly, that it's a good kind of quality for a player to be able to play in a couple of positions, offer you different options, depending on like the tactics you try to employ. Obviously, like Richarlison can play off the left, can play at striker. Gordon seems to be able to kind of adapt to both wings as well, does a job on both. But that's kind of the end for the more prominent rumours. Have you got anything more to add on Leon Bailey there? Kind of, is it because when I spoke to Tom Fenton, and he told me a lot about kind of his prospects, obviously Bayer Leverkusen have Europa League football. Other clubs might be interested in Leon Bailey, but apparently he says that we are probably the more likely club to sign him. He clearly he's desperate to play English football. Would he start at City? No. Would he start at United? No. Would he start at Spurs? Probably not. Can Spurs afford him? Also probably not. So I think we are maybe the more likely club to sign him at this point. What are your thoughts on kind of that? Because we've had players come that have maybe been linked with better clubs higher in the table, and then kind of haven't given a role, you could say. What would you kind of think about his prospects here in terms of like his interest elsewhere?
He's at an age where if he comes to England, then he's going to have to really work hard, because if he gets a move to Everton, it's not going to. I don't like saying this, but it's probably not his end goal, is it? Do you know what I mean? His end goal is to probably play for a Champions League club and challenge for trophies, and that's something Everton haven't done for years and years and years. So if he wants to achieve that, then his best bet is to come and sign for a club in England who can put him in the shop window more than what he is now. So if he wants to interest the likes of City or Liverpool or some other European super club, then he's going to have to come to a club like Everton and really impress and do something. So I don't mind that, because if we sign Leon Bailey and then we sold him in a few seasons down the line, it's probably only going to be because he's done so well that we can't match his ambition anymore, like with Richarlison. Hopefully not. Hopefully we come and we go through the ceiling and we end up achieving all these things ourselves, but you've got to be realistic. So if we signed Leon Bailey, I don't see him being a Sigurdsson or an Ashley Williams where he just thinks, I've got my big move now. I'm playing in a league I want to play in. I'm just going to phone it in. I think if a player like that signs for Everton, then his performance levels are only going to go up. And if he ends up not working out, it's only because the player himself's not good enough and was never going to be.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of
sometimes, yeah, not every time it works out. Yeah,
yeah, and that kind of brings us to the end of our video now. As I mentioned, do tell us in the comments below what you think about all the players mentioned. Maybe a couple of players that we haven't. Obviously, thank you for Paul for coming on. Be sure to check out all his social media down below. Check out all the Toffee Blues social media as well. On the YouTube channel, we are bringing you daily 24/7 videos where we talk about these rumours in less detail, but kind of bringing the up-to-date news as when it happens. We also have a bunch of player reviews going on at the moment. They're almost done. We've almost got through the squad. We can almost look ahead to next season, be a bit more positive. So be sure to check out those when they come up. And obviously, as I mentioned, thanks Paul for coming on. Thank you all very much for watching, and join us next time on the Toffee Blues.